Boker Tov, the Halacha Pesach with the emphasis on Pesach 5781.
Good morning, good afternoon to our listeners. I preface my shir today. It's not going to be like the regular shir, which is thoughts and depth into the Parshas. We will get back into the Parshas in a week or two, probably after Pesach. We'll plenty of Parshas of Vayikra that we'll be able to discuss the concept of Karbonos and Beis Hamikdash. That's definitely on the plan. But now, in Yonah D'Yoma is more pressing, and I want to this week speak about the laws pertaining to Erev Pesach Shchal Yos b'Shabbos. Today's share will be spent on that, and next week we'll speak about practical aspects of Leil HaSeder. So this week and next week are going to be halacha oriented, and I preface my shir by saying that I'm not a practicing Rav. So Rabbanim who are involved daily and weekly and yearly in halacha l'maisa, they're much more into all the different nuances of the details of the halachas and all the different lechatchilas and b'di evet. Halachas are not so simple. Halacha l'maisa is not a very simple accomplishment to know how to halacha l'maisa. From the Gemara we get the concepts and the rules, but the applications in l'maisa, practicalities, you need a lot of practical experience in that, and most Rabbanim have that. I have, being the age that I am, and having lived a lot of Yom Tov and Pesach Shabbos, Yom Tov and Shabbos, and learned a lot of halacha, I have a certain amount of expertise and a certain amount of knowledge and familiarity with areas of halacha. I do not consider myself a poisik. Therefore, I will say things, and if there's any questions or you feel that I'm contradicting what you know from your own experience, I would appreciate getting feedback in case I'm making an error, or I'm not clarifying well enough, or not giving enough clarity. Maybe there's other opinions, maybe Sephardim and Ashkenazim. I'm not totally familiar with all the Sephardi minhagim, although I did check up a little bit on the Sephardi minhagim today in order to give information also how Sephardim might practice. But that's my introduction to the shir, that I'm not a practicing Rav, and therefore anything I will try to give over the basic rules and the basic ideas and some of the basic problems. Maybe I don't have all the solutions. Okay, let's just discuss the outline, what's going on. Now, before we talk about Erev Pesach that comes out on Shabbos, let's talk about a regular year. And then we'll you'll see the differences, and that's why it's very important to be aware of that. Okay, on a regular year, until Pesach, everyone cleans their house. They do a pretty good job to make sure there's no chametz in the places that chametz could be. You clean up, you look for places. You don't have to check. I'm not going into all the details now of all, because that would take, that's a share in itself, hilchas b'dikas chametz. But basically, you clean up the areas that you know you have chametztika items: your cupboards, your refrigerators, your freezers, your car. Okay, bedrooms. If you have little children and they always have little bags of nash and they run around the house, then you have to be concerned that maybe it's a bag of nash, a bag of pretzels, a bag of Shabbos nash under their bed or under their pillow or in their shoes or somewhere. So little kids can get the chametz. You can find anywhere and everywhere. So you have to really, the younger families have a lot harder job. As you get older, there's less chametz flying around the bedrooms, not as much. And my age in life, it's less, because we have less koyach to clean. So thank God we have less chametz in the house. But we have our kitchen and we have our freezer. Those are jobs that my wife and myself and the kids, all our older children, help us out. Baruch Hashem. So and then the mitzvah of b'dikas chametz is always on the night of the 14th, or the night of the 14th. That's b'dikas chametz. And then, even though you've checked everything pretty well until then, and you pretty much know the house is clean, but you take there's a mitzvah to make the last search, and that's when you make the bracha to look and make sure that the night of the 14th I have a chiyuv to make sure that everything is tip top, everything is clean for Pesach, and the areas that I want to sell, I know what I'm selling, and what goes to, if I have a large amount of chametz that I'm not going to get rid of, and I don't want to burn, because if it's a little bit of, let me make a statement to make, is if you have a little bit of chametz, don't sell a little bag of pretzels and one bag of macaroni and one bottle of schnapps. If you have that left over, then do the mitzvah of bir chametz kedin and burn it and spill it out. If you have a case or a sizable amount of chametz that you didn't plan, you were supposed to have some simcha, you bought a bunch of macaroni, and then the simcha didn't end up happening, and you left with 5 bags of macaroni, to burn 5 bags of macaroni before Pesach, that's already you could say it's with $10, whatever it's going to be. maybe call it a hefsed, it's a loss of money. You're allowed to sell chametz. I'm not saying you're not allowed to sell one bottle, but for one bottle, why rely on the? It's a certain level of leniency of a kula mechiras chametz. We do it out of if we have no other choice. A storekeeper has a lot of chametz. It's a large monetary loss, but the halacha allows him to be lenient and sell to a guy. But if you don't have a need to do that, then the best thing would be to also sell things that are questionable, that we're not sure the chametz, just to be sure. We sell our different perfumes, different things that might have chametz ingredients. That we do. Even the frumis of the frumis will do that because it's not real 100% chametz, just to be sure it's not to get it out of my possession. Because Pesach, as we know, is two averas: the avera of eating chametz, the avera of owning, of having chametz in your possession. We'll discuss soon about what it means to own chametz. Okay, because you don't really own your chametz on Pesach, but you're not allowed to have within your possession. That's in your home or in a property that you own in your backyard, in your yard, in your machsanim, in your storage places. Even if you have a house in America, what else? Yeah, there are dinim of chametz. You have to know bedika, beer. We have to know whether you're bechuyev. Those are all details of bedikas and bedika chametz. We're not getting into all the details, but generally speaking, you try to get rid of your chametz whatever you can. Okay, so and you do bedika the night of chametz bedika. After you make the house, you search the house, and you put the 10 pieces. That's a minig. It's a custom, a very accepted custom to put 10 pieces, hide 10 pieces, and that way it make sure you know where the 10 pieces are that you hid. In other words, your children who hide it for you or your wife should write down where they're hidden, in case there have been situations many times in history where people forgot where they were lost, where they hid them, and they missed, the piece was lost in the house, and they had to spend all night looking for the 10th piece that was lost somewhere in the house. Don't get into that problem. Just avoid that problem. Write it down. Okay, but after you have the 10 pieces, and you collect your chametz and whatever, and then so now you have like this. You have chametz you're going to eat at the night, chametz you're going to eat by day. But let me say, after you finish bedikas chametz, you make the bracha and you don't talk, and you search with a candle or with a flashlight, go around the house. After bedikas chametz, and you do something called bittul chametz. Bittul chametz means you nullify. You nullify. We do bittul chametz twice, on the night of bedikas chametz and the next morning after the sreifa. Okay. That you make bittul chametz means nullifying. It's a very deep halachic concept of destroying in your mind and in your heart any crumbs or any chametz that might be left in the house. At night, you speak about the chametz that you don't know about, chametz that you do know about. Your pito that you can have for breakfast, or you can have tonight after you finish chametz at 10 o'clock at night when you might have your supper tonight. Those you're not being mavatal. You're mavatal chametz that you don't know about. Chametz that might have been left, crumbs that might be left under the couch that you didn't check well enough, or might be in some cupboard that you forgot about and you didn't check and you didn't get to. You don't want to have that chametz in your possession. So when you say bittul, wherever it may be, that chametz is batal. It becomes nullified, and on a derastic level, on a Torah level, you are not breaking the law of having chametz in your rishus because you nullified it. You to a certain extent, you were mafkir it. You made it, abandoned it. You took off your ownership on it. You relinquished your ownership on it, and becomes hefker. And that's whatever the lumdus how it works a bittul, but it's more complicated than that. But is a magical a thing that we say called bittul. It's written in Aramaic. You can say it in Hebrew or in English, where you verbally state that you nullify your chametz. That's done after bedikas chametz on the night of bedikas chametz. The next morning, the hours we're allowed to eat chametz for 4 hours. Of the first the day is divided to 12 hours. The first 4 hours of the day when we eat chametz, the fifth hour is midaraisa. You can eat chametz. Remember, chametz is forbidden to be eaten 7 days of Pesach, but also from 12:01, beginning of the 13th hour of the day, the 7th hour of the day, 12 o'clock, noon, that's midaraisa. There's an additional prohibition not to eat chametz on Erev Pesach. And since the rabbis were afraid you won't be able to tell the difference between 12 noon and 11 and 10, so how many hours you can make a mistake? So either 2 or 3, 1 or 2 hours, you can make the differential is not so easy. It's easy to make a mistake if you don't have watches in those days. So the rabbis said, and that's how we paskin, you stop eating chametz 2 hours before noon. That's 10. Let's say around 10 o'clock. It actually comes up actually around 10 o'clock. You stop eating chametz, but it's not yet forbidden to have benefit. And the next hour, we involve ourselves in burning the chametz. After 10. We eat the 4 hours, and the 4th to the 5th hour, 4 hours you can eat. The 5th hour we burn, and the 6th, the 5th hour we can have benefit. We could give it to a goy. We could sell it. We could give it to the cat. We give it to the dog. But in the 6th hour, beginning of the 6th hour, that's the zman to burn chametz. So really, we can burn on the 6th. You have actually till between 11 and 12 already to burn the chametz. You get 10 to 11, you can give it to. You don't eat anymore. You stop eating, but you can have benefit. In the beginning of the 11th to 12th hour, that's when you burn. Now we burn already in the end of the 11th. We don't wait for the 11th hour, for that 6th hour of the day. In the 5th hour, before 11:01 or 11:15, whenever it's going to be, we already do our Sreifas Chametz, and I'll tell you why. Because, and this is going to be important, because bittul, we're going to say, after we burn our Chametz, the Chametz, what are we burning? The Chametz that we're not going to sell, and they're not eating anymore. So we burn that Chametz, and this is the mitzvah d'oraisa of Tashbisu Sa'ami Batechem, to destroy Chametz from your home. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa of Tashbisu. We want to fulfill that mitzvah. There's even a discussion in Minchas Chinuch that if you don't have any chametz in your house, maybe you should buy a piece of chametz to be able to fulfill the mitzvah of destroying chametz. And them say the mitzvah is only if you have it. You don't have it, you're great. You don't need the mitzvah. The mitzvah is a mitzvah if you have it to destroy it, but you don't have it. But some say no. I want to be able to fulfill the mitzvah actually. So those say the same about b'dikas chametz. The mitzvah of b'dikas chametz is also part of the mitzvah tashbisu. If you go to your in-laws and you arrive the day before Pesach and they're doing b'dikas chametz, you should, in your room, you should say, please, I want to make a badika. Let me make the badika and make the bracha. I should have some place to do badika, because I want to fulfill this year, mitzvah badikas chametz with the bracha. Hi. Yeah. Hi. So, badikas chametz with the bracha. Yeah, so, that's, you want to fulfill the mitzvah of tashbisu. We do the mitzvah of tashbisu. Now, here's the situation. Here's the problem. Here's the problem.
Not a dog. What is it? Come here, sweet.
Okay. Here's the problem now. You cannot make bittul when the chametz is aser bahana. After 12 o'clock or after 11:01, that's when the rabbanan asered chametz ba'achila and bahana and pleasure. Chametz aser bahana means you're not in control of it. It's not yours. It's not yours to do things with. It's yours to have the sin of having chametz in your possession. But it's not yours to do. You can't sell it at that point. You can't sell it. You can destroy it, but you can't sell it, and you can't be mafker. You can't make bittul. So bittul has to be done before the beginning of the 6th hour. So the Mishnah says in Pesach Psachim that Yisarfim b'techilas sheish, that you burn at the beginning of the 6th hour, because the Mishnah was not talking about bittul. It wasn't yet enacted to say bittul after the sreifa. So you're allowed to burn the whole after chametz aser at the beginning of the 6th hour. Chametz is totally aser. You can't sell it, and you can't have benefit, and you can't eat it. So then you burn it. Because why not? You can burn it all day. From the start of the 6th hour, that's when you burn. But we burn before the 6th hour because we want to finish the burning, and we don't want to say bittul yet because we want to burn the chametz that we own. That way, we become mitzvah chametz on chametz. So if we're mavatal it, Dave, if you mavatal the chametz before you burn it, and you have and it's chametz in front of you, say I'm mavatal it, it's not your chametz anymore. It's dust of the earth. You will not be fulfilling the mitzvah of tashbisum on your chametz. So we don't do that second bittul. The bittul we made at night, I've said before, is the only chametz that you don't know about. Chametz that you do know about, which is I don't make that bittul till the day. You'll notice, look at the nusach of the two bittles, night and day, and you'll see the differential between the two bittles is that night is only the chametz that I don't know about, and by day the chametz that I do know about. So therefore, a whole year, every year, we burn the chametz earlier in the 5th hour, and we leave room and time for the sreifa to take. We do bittul, we do sreifa early in the 5th hour, burn it up, and have enough time before the end of the 5th hour, before the 6th hour, to be able to say the bittul. Okay, so that's very important to know that bittul must be said before the beginning of the 6th hour. Okay. Now, this is every year, and then Seder at night. Okay, this year because Erev Pesach is Shabbos, so we can't. So things get changed around. So what happens over here? First of all, the Tainis B'choros, which usually takes place on Erev Pesach, this year Erev Pesach would be Shabbos. This year it's pushed off not till Friday. to Thursday. Thursday morning is Tainis Becharis. Okay? And Bedikas Chametz is Thursday night, which is not the usual night. It's a night earlier because we can't do Bedikas Chametz on Shabbos. Although, if you didn't do Bedikas Chametz on Thursday night, there are halachas of doing Bedikas Chametz on Shabbos. Obviously without a candle, but you can look around, and there is a b'diavad situation of doing Bedikas Chametz on Friday night. If you didn't do it on Thursday night, okay? So let's not forget to do Chametz. Let's do Chametz Thursday night. Fast of the firstborn is on Thursday. Thursday night is Bedikas Chametz. Bedikas Chametz, and we do it usual time, sunset, usual Bedikas Chametz, bracha. And after the Bedikas Chametz, you say Bittul Chametz like every other year. Okay? Same as every year. Now it comes, you're now on the night of the 13th of Nisan, not the 14th of Nisan. Tomorrow is the 13th by day. So now, basically today is still way before Pesach. I can eat Chametz all day today.
Yeah.
And so according to there is opinion in the Gemara, in the Mishnah in Masechet Pesachim, that you don't have to burn any chametz. Since you can still eat chametz until Shabbos morning at 10 o'clock, whatever we'll say, so leave all your chametz. Don't do any destruction. On Shabbos morning, whatever you have left over Shabbos morning from your meal and the chametz that you didn't finish eating, you will dispose of in some form or shape. Either give it to a goy, or down the toilet, or you can't burn it, or get rid of it in break it up and throw it in the wind. There are different ways and means to destroy chametz without breaking Shabbos. So it's such an opinion, but we don't. What we do is any chametz that we're planning to eat on Shabbos, we have to be very calculated. We calculate, and we'll discuss that more in detail soon. That we calculate the chametz. The only chametz that we want to have on Shabbos anywhere in our house is the bread, because we cannot eat matzah. And we have the only thing, and we have a mitzvah. You didn't try to fulfill all the mitzvahs. We have a mitzvah on Shabbos to eat a suda. We don't want, and a suda means with bread, with hamoitzi. We didn't keep the dinim. Even though it's a little bit difficult. Maybe we should say, Dave, this week, you know what? This week we'll do away with bread. There are people that will eat matzah ashira. It's a major problem. Let me say. I'll tell you. A parenthetical idea. A separate idea that in hotels they have 500 people for Pesach, and they have an Erev Shabbos like this. They're in a big quandary. The house, the kitchen is Pesach. It's certainly not chametz the Pesach kitchen. The Shabbos is cooking Pesach. But if they have to provide bread for 500 people at least for two meals, that's a lot of bread, and they don't know how much to prepare. They don't want to short bread. People say, "Hey, I didn't get my roll today." People would be upset, and yet they usually have with a lot of extra. What do we do with all that bread? They're Pesach. They have they'll clog up the toilets. A lot of bread to get rid of. They have a major problem. It's not an easy problem to solve, and many hotels decide that what to do is egg matzah, which is a problem itself, which I don't want to get into it because it's a mezoinus, it's not a moitzi. You have to eat a lot of it, but there is such an eitzah. I spoke to a friend of mine in America who doesn't have he's eating egg matzah. Okay, it's brought to even Shulchan Aruch to eat egg matzah. I'm not talking about after Zman Isser. I'm talking about Friday night and Shabbos morning before the Zman Isser. After Zman Isser, Ashkenazim don't eat egg matzah on Pesach. Sephardim do, Ashkenazim do not. So I'm talking about egg matzah for Friday night and Shabbos morning before the Zman Isser Chametz. As an option to bread, as another option not to have bread.
So
egg matzah that's not chametz. Egg matzah that's officially not chametz.
If a shul was going to have mincha at Mincha Gedola, let's say, and then people are going to go for a Suda Shlishit, a light one, so they still have their appetite, and they're going to have egg matzah.
Wrong. We can't have egg matzah. Right? Ashkenazim can't. Sephardim can, but Ashkenazim can't. Okay. So that says that for Ashkenazim, it's not an option.
Not an option.
And after all, and egg matzah is
so for Ashkenaz, you have to have your Suda Shlishit.
We'll get to that. Let's get to that. Okay. Let's go. Okay. Now we're holding on Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach, we're talking about Friday morning. Friday morning is the 13th of Nisan. So the rule of the Chazal was that even though you can burn, let's like this. We only want to say for Shabbos the breads or the pitot that we're going to have for the Lechem Mishnah for the Sudas Shabbos. We're not macaroni that we have left over, or we're not cooking any macaroni, we're not cooking any more Lakshan kugel, I'm not giving any leftover, croutons, fish, soup croutons or bread to put in the soup. No croutons in this Shabbos. You don't want to have bread in the soup and the plates and so any of those bags of chametz you have left over, that's what you're going to want to burn on Friday. And halacha, you can really burn it all day. But the Chazal are very concerned that if you make differences this year to every year in your protocol, you can next year not going to remember the last year was different. And rabbis are very worried about doing things different than every year. You're in a certain routine that you used to every year. Let's stick to the routine. In order not to have next year get mixed up. Hey, last year I burnt at 3 p.m, so why am I burning at 11 a.m? I have till 5 more hours. Oh no, last year I forgot it was Erev Pesach. It was Friday. It was people are not always cognizant of all the details. So in order to keep things consistent, Chazal said, you know what? Burn the chametz regular time. That means, but not regular time. So I told you, this is what, since you're not going to make bittul on Friday morning, because you're still eating chametz after usually on a regular Erev Pesach, once you make the bittul, there's no more chametz. You're finished eating chametz. Here you can eat chametz the rest of the day and Friday night and Shabbos morning. So the mevatel chametz, all your chametz, you once you take it back and eat it, you mevatel the bittul. By taking your chametz, you nullified your nullification because you said it was the dust of the earth, and you go eating the dust of the earth. That's pretty very delicious dust. You decided that dust is not dust. You reestablished its value as bread, and you reestablished that it's chametz. It's delicious. It ain't dust. If it's dust, you don't want to look at it. You want to see it. You don't want you want it to be dust, but you don't want it to be dust. You want it to be food. So therefore, it's what's the word? Ludicrous to make a bittul on Friday morning that on chametz you're going to eat Friday night and Shabbos morning. Yeah. So we don't make bittul on Friday, but we make bittul on Shabbos, and people forget about that because make a note of that. Make sure you make bittul. In other words, after you finish your meal and you're busy now cleaning up the crumbs and can't eat anymore. But 1 minute you have this 1 hour to clean up, but don't forget that you have until the beginning of the 6th hour to make bittul. And you can forget that. It's a very important bittul because that bittul covers all your bases. You want that bittul. You don't want to forget that bittul. So that's a very important thing to remember. Shabbos morning, bittul. Okay. Now, usually the law is, I forgot to mention, and every Erev Pesach, usually, in the afternoon of Erev Pesach, after Chatzos, it's brought down, it's a whole parak in Masechta Pesachim, about whether you're allowed to do work on Erev Pesach after Chatzos. Actually, the parak, that's the famous parak of Mokum Shenogu. All the laws about customs, going from places that are strict to places that are lenient, Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, whether you follow the custom of the place you're coming from, custom of the place you're going to, all the dinim of customs and changes of places, and whether you have to keep it, if you came from a place that was lenient, you go to a place that's strict, you have to keep the strict law, or can you keep it lenient? A guy comes from Eretz Yisrael, goes to America. They're stricter 2 days Yom Tov. I'm lenient. Can I keep my lenient? All the laws have been hugim. So that comes up on the laws of Erev Pesach. But that's the parak in Sefer Pesachim that deals with this. But what the point is that after Chatzos on Erev Pesach, you're not supposed to do malacha. What does that mean? You're allowed to turn a light on. You're allowed to drive. You're allowed to cook. You can't do the malachas that we don't do on Chol Hamoed, which is things sowing, planting. You don't do malachas that you wouldn't do on Chol Hamoed. Now, if you have to go to work on Erev Pesach and Friday, okay, when I talk about someone has to have a job, maybe they have to go to work and they have no choice. But people who don't go to work Chol Hamoed, people who don't work Chol Hamoed should not be working on Erev Pesach after Chatzos. Guy who has a job, an office job, and he takes it off on Chol Hamoed because he has to work on Chol Hamoed, he should not be working on Erev Pesach after Chatzos. This year, since Erev Pesach, it's Friday, it's not Erev Pesach, you're allowed to work. You're allowed to sew, you're allowed to do wash, you're allowed to do knitting, you're allowed to go to the job, you can go to the office, it's mutter. Okay. Now, because the reasons why you don't do malach on Erev Pesach is because, since it was in time of Beis Hamikdash, that was the time when people brought the Korban Pesach on Erev Pesach. So they're busy with Korban Pesach. It's like a yontif. The day you bring a korban, it's like a day of a yontif. The day you bring a korban is a yontif. It's a relationship to parts of Yikra, bringing korbanos. The day you bring a korban is a holiday. It's a special, it's a happy occasion. You're bringing a korban, you're coming close to Kodesh Baruch Hu. It was a yontif. It has it's like a yontif like Chol Hamoed. You should keep it like a yontif, big day Shabbos. So Also because you're busy getting ready for Pesach, cleaning for Pesach. So the reason of Korban Pesach is not relevant because the Korban Pesach is not brought on Friday of this year. If we brought on Shabbos, the Erev Pesach. It's not brought on the day before. So it's that reason is not relevant today. And also, so that's okay. So therefore, the Mishnah Berurah says the minig you can certainly be makel to do work this year on Erev Pesach until like every Friday afternoon. You can do it until Friday. Okay. Now, what do you do for Shabbos? How do you make a Shabbos this year? You have two options. You could use it depends if you have everyone's going to have already ready a Pesach stove. Because you're going to Pesach. You're going from Shabbos to Yom to Pesach. So you have your Pesach stove, your Pesach vessels, and everything is set up. What are you doing this Shabbos? Chametz stick. So it's clear, like everybody, for all practical logic, you should not be cooking anything chametz stick. On this, you could be using chametz stick kalim. If you have a Pesach stick stove and a chametz stick stove, you're not going to use it. You cleaned it up, you scrubbed it, and you cleaned it. It's not no visible chametz on it. No leftover noodles stuck to the. My house can happen. The kids, get into spill noodles on the side of the stove and it can fall in and get stuck there and it can sit there for 2 days until it gets nice and hard. Okay, so you clean your stove well before Pesach, and now there's no chametz stuck to the stove. And the burners, you're not going to use it anyway on Pesach. Let's say if you use it, then it's Pesach thing. But if it's not Pesach, so you have an option to use a chametz stick pot, make chametz stick soup. But you don't want to make no luxury, just broth without. Chicken's not chametz, and you make chicken and vegetables and whatever you want to make, and gefilte fish and all that stuff can be all Pesach stick, but you can be using chametz stick kalim. So then what happens after you finish the meal? You just you rinse them out and put them back into the chametz stick cabinet, and you're all set. If you don't have a Pesach, if you don't have a chametz stick stove and a Pesach, you only have a Pesach stick stove. You only have one stove, so you're going to use Pesach stick vessels. You can cook your Shabbos in a Pesach stick pot. Now, to pour from Pesach stick soup, hot soup, into a chametz stick bowl that was used within 24 hours for hot chametz, which is not so common, but if you have a chametz stick bowl that has in it blias of chametz within 24 hours, so the connection between the hot water and the Mishnah Berurah is not happy with the hot soup being poured into chametz stick plate, that the connection of the heat from the flow of the nitzok, the pour of that's pouring from the hot soup into the chametz is connecting the chametz stick plate with the Pesach stick pot. There might be some connection between the chametz and the pot from the plate going into the pot. There's such a chashash. In Hilchot Yerodea, there is such things where flavors and tamim and belios, things that are in the walls of the kalim, can be transferred through hot water. So that's why it's not recommended that you pour from a Pesach stick pot into a chametz stick dish. Now, nowadays, I'm sure you're all going to be using on this Shabbos disposable. You're not going to be using any chametz stick pot. You're probably using maybe even cutlery would be disposable. And you maybe get better quality ones to break after one use. Get a little stronger. Splurge and buy stronger and nicer cups and nicer colored, decorative plates for the Pesach, for Erev Pesach Shabbos. It should be covered Shabbos. Don't buy these cheapy, these ones or the cheapy plastic plates. You should also, if you buy a cheap plastic soup plate and you pour boiling hot soup, you'll deform the plate, and that's a question on Shabbos of changing a form. That's what I brought down. If it's going to melt it and turn it, deform it, you've done a breaking.
Gazpacho, but so
not a gazpacho. The plate.
Gazpacho is called the Spanish tomato soup.
Yeah.
But these cheap plastic cups that we're holding right now.
Yeah. Right.
We don't use these because they're cheap and because for Shabbat it's not Odeg Shabbos, right?
It's not covered Shabbos, right? So that's what I'm saying. For covered Shabbos, I would buy nice chad pami stuff, like the kind of stuff that you would buy for a Sheva Brachas. You make or Sudas Purim. You can buy nice. There's very nice chad pami stuff. That's very nice. Nice napkins, and nice plates, and nice cutlery. There is nicer stuff they could use. That would be appropriate. Okay. So now here's the situation. So you have all you have in your house. It's chametz stick. is if you have now, if you're a family, I'm not talking about we have a lot of little kids. A lot of kids gets very complicated. What to do? But let's say just adults, mature adults that know what they're doing. So then you have your chalas. Just you have a chametz. All you have is your chalas in a bag in a corner somewhere. Everything else is Pesach dik. Your house is Pesach dik, and the food is being cooked all Pesach dik. Only chametz you're going to be eating tonight and tomorrow is the bread, which you can make a motzi on. Make a motzi and eat it, and then no. And you be careful not to spread the crumbs on the floor around you, although you will sweep up afterwards. But try to eat over the table. You have a nice plastic tablecloth on top of the tablecloth, and you eat over the table. And now here, but I want to make something pointing out stuff to you. And then, so some people just have the bread, finish it. Everyone had a nice piece of it, the whole pita, or fill themselves on the bread, and then they serve usually the fish. You like to eat the fish with the bread, with challah, with grain, right? You might, so then you're going to get crumbs of the challah on the plate, which is not a problem. You can do that. Just be careful not to. Some people would say after bread, a lot of kids, you made a motzi, you had your bread, that's it. All the bread goes back in the bag, closed up, locked up. No more bread. So, and that's a halachic problem, because if you can't eat bread anymore, then you have a question that the rest of the food, every meal, after we make a motzi, we don't make any more brachas. Why not? Because everything we eat is subservient to the bread. Because bread is the main item on the agenda, on the menu. The bread, it's called a lechem, it's a suda, and everything is bottle, negligible to the bread, and it doesn't require its own separate bracha. But if you're not going to eat any more bread, and with a shtempel, with a chatima, you've officially decided no more bread for the rest of the meal. So then where does the rest of the meal become subservient to the bread? You're not eating with it. If you could always have a piece of bread with we can dip it into your chicken, or into your chicken soup, or you have all these options. So your bread and your meal become one. But here the bread is not connecting anymore on a semi-official basis. You're not eating one more bread. Is that mess up the problem of the bracha? So I asked this to Rav Greinaman. He said to me, he knows it's such a question asked, but in his house, after the bread, they do not eat much more bread at the table. But since you could, theoretically, if you're careful, you can take another piece of bread and eat it. It's no problem. You're not forbidden to eat it. You're just being more careful. But since you're allowed to eat bread with the rest of the meal, and it's still on the menu, if you want it, it's still there. You have to be careful, it's still there. So it's considered that the meal is still subservient to the bread, and therefore you can still eat the rest of the meal without making new brachas. Even the kind of straight, no more bread. I can't touch bread. I mean, now my chicken soup, and my potatoes, and my carrots, and my salad, and no bread. I can't nibble on a piece of challah while I'm doing this. Okay, but you really could if you only have a couple people, you and your wife, and a couple, and you're going to be careful. So then you could. You're totally allowed to eat bread the whole meal until no problem. Okay, if you have a lot of little kids, it's a major problem. There are many people, many people who have a porch or have a hallway. They'll make a motzi in the porch. They want bread in the house because the kids are terrors. If the kids got a piece of bread in their hand, forget it. No Pesach this year. So they decide they're going to give the bread the kids are eating outside, or you give the kids matzah. Little kids, you give them matzah. They can have matzah at Erev Pesach. Little ones, you give them matzah. Give them egg matzah.
And they're excited about it.
Give them egg matzah. Give them. And people do that. But people say, no, I want my kids to have the mitzvah matzah. So it depends how young they are and how messy they are. Everything depends on the situation. And there are different psukim in situations of children. Okay, but for mature adults, the shir now is given a mature audience over here that careful, that wants to do halacha properly, and is able to control your situation. Not a hotel, which is mass production and major headache, but a small house, or even a house with children, with family. But I'm going to have 8 people at my Shabbos table this Shabbos. I'm going to have 8 people, but we'll be careful to eat over the table, have our bread. So now what happens after you finish the meal? You finished if there's crumbs, if you're careful to eat every last crumb. That's why people prefer pitot over regular challah, because pitot don't crumble as much as challah. Okay, but if you're careful, I don't feel it's Shabbosdik to eat a pita. So I do have challahs. I do have regular challahs, but I'm careful to cut them, and then we try to eat. Now, what I will do is, so let's say you finish the meal, and now, Friday night, you wrap up everything and dump it into the garbage. Now, if there are little crumbs in your nylon or on the plates, so then if you put them all together in one nylon, you might come to a shear of a kazayas of crumbs, and then. So what are you doing with that garbage? If you're eventually going to get it out of your rishus and get into a place where it's not yours, but what about mitzvah tashbisu? You want to destroy the chametz. So what I do, I did in years past, I remember, is I do look at the plates before we before you throw the plastic plates into the garbage. I will look to see if there's crumbs on them, and I might take a whole pile of these plates to the bathtub. Not to the sink, because sink is Pesach. It's the bathtub, and rinse them off. Before I throw them out, rinse them off to make sure any chametz that's left of them should be down the drain. Tashbisu, destroyed. And that way, when and the tablecloth, before I wrap it up and throw it in the garbage, I might go outside to the window and shake it out. So it goes to the wind. To get rid of all these crumbs. I want to do my best job of tashbisu, to worry that there shouldn't be any cumulative amount of crumbs in the garbage can. Now, if I would know tomorrow that I could take my garbage can to a garbage dispenser outside of my home that I don't have a joint ownership in, see, you have a big dumpster somewhere, that's yours. By dumping from your kitchen, your living room, to that dumpster, you didn't accomplish much because it's still in your possession. So that's when you, David, for sure, or you, Alan, you're going to want to make sure that you don't put a sizable amount of crumbs into the garbage. So you'll be careful Friday night and on Shabbos morning to collect the crumbs that might be on the plates or might be on the nylon and try to collect it into a plate. Or you know what you can do? I'd make it even easier. Instead of taking, like I told you, I'm not. My grandma told me, take all the plates and dump what's ever left over onto one plate. And clean them off onto one plate. And that way you see there's nothing left here. There's a little tiny speck. There's nothing. And then they get rid of the plastic plate. That plate, which has in a sizable amount of garbage, that will go down the toilet. Understand? And then the plastic tablecloth, kind of like collect it. Also try to collect it to see if the inside with a brush or something to brush it together to try to gather together any crumbs that might be on the plastic, and those crumbs send them down the drain, down the toilet.
Within an eruv, if there is a communal garbage,
yeah. So it's a Dave. Communal garbage, it belongs to nobody or belongs to everybody. What's the status of a communal garbage? Is it belong to the Moatzah? It belongs to the city of Zichron Yaakov, and not belongs to me? I don't have any private ownership. Or the communal garbage is in your neighborhood is the ownership, the joint ownership of all the members of the community that are using it.
The Moatzah.
If it's a Moatzah, and many will say like that, and Dave, I can accept that. If the garbage, but if it's within the Erev, we happen to have within our Erev, and we don't rely on the whole town's Erev, but we rely on a Zik Chazanish. So we have garbage cans, and we will throw them into them. But because I'm concerned about the sheet that say that I might have ownership, you're saying a very important. Most probably you're right. That the garbage can and the garbage dumpster
Well, also in Chazanish you have it at the top of Chazanish Street, right below the stairs.
Yeah.
There's one of those deep.
Yeah, you have more than three of them.
Right. So if communal means everybody owns it, so if this one puts his stuff in there, it's yours now, right? It's your challah. You're like, I didn't do anything, and now I'm gonna challah. I don't want this.
I don't want it. So what you don't want, you don't get.
Okay.
If someone puts hummus in my backyard, and I don't want it. I'm not going to buy it. They can't force me. I don't want it. It's not mine. It's yours. I don't have to. I relinquish all the willingness to accept any new chametz after 11.
Pita is, I don't want your pita.
I don't want your
pita. I'm giving it to you. I don't want.
You can't force me. You can't force me to accept it. I don't accept it. Okay. So this is a very important practicality that it's easy to be done when you have a small group. If you have a lot of kids and that's why giving pitos to little kids is problem. They leave over. They crumble. You have to watch the kids. You don't want to drive the kids crazy either. So that's why some parents just don't give the kids chametz at all. Everything depends on the situation. On this, Rabbanim have different pesakim. You give them rice cakes We give them, Pesach like a rice cake, kitnios. On the Shesh Shabbos, you can eat kitnios. Even Ashkenazi can eat kitnios. Give kitnios to the kids. Let them fill themselves on rice cakes, and let them spread the rice cakes over the table. That's not chametz. These are okay. These are more practical. Eight you have to know about. Okay, as I said, Shabbos morning. Oh, so here's the story now. Shabbos morning. Okay. Chametz has the time where you stop eating chametz is 10 o'clock or 10:10, according to the calendar. Maybe 10:40 according to a lenient sheet, but the Chumash sheet of Magen Avram is 10:10. It might be later for the Gra, but I would not take a chance on a deraisa of chametz to eat after 10:10. I think most calendars, most Rabbanim will say around 10 o'clock, 10:10, around that time to stop eating chametz. So listen, what time is davening? Sunrise is going to be already the new sunrise. Because they're changing the clock on.
Forward, so it'll be earlier.
It'll be later.
Clock will say 8. Okay, whatever you tell me, I can't think.
Think for a minute. Now sunrise now is 10 to 6.
Yeah.
Change the clock. It's going to be 10 to 7.
Yes, it will.
10 to 7. So sunrise is going to be around 10 to 7. So earliest you can daven and say 6:15. 10 to 7 Baruch Shmona Esrei, right? If you start davening, let's say the nets will start at 6 o'clock, let's say. Nets will be 10 to 7. Let's say at 6 o'clock. They'll finish around 8:15. Okay? That gives you what? 2 hours to go home and eat 2 meals. So let's discuss 2 meals. According to the Sfardim, according to the Mechaber, you cannot eat Shalosh Shudas before Chatzos. So there's no this year on Erev Pesach you will not eat Shalosh Shudas until after Chatzos, and you can't eat bread and you can't eat matzah. So you will Yotzei the Shita, and that's what we'll do anyway in the afternoon of Pesach, Erev Pesach, on Shabbos. We will have in the afternoon. So let's go Keseder. Let's go Keseder. Friday night we said Friday and Shabbos morning eat a regular Shabbos meal. So you have to bear in mind, if you're a Sephardi, it's easy. Eat 1 meal in the morning, and that's it. If you're an Ashkenazi, and there are opinions in the Ashkenazi Shulchan Aruch that say you can eat Shalosh Shudas before Mincha and even before Chatzos. So, and since Yidden, we try to do everything the best way possible. As in Shabbos, we don't want to shortchange Shabbos. So you want to be able to have Shalosh Shudas 3 meals on Shabbos, which is the minhag is Friday night 1 meal. You can't break up the Friday night meal to 2. That won't help. I saw someone say, why do you break Friday night? A lot of time. Have 2 on Friday night. Eat, wash, have your soup, have your fish, bench, take a walk, come back, and then until 11 o'clock have a party, have the flesh. You have your 2 meals, and tomorrow morning 1 meal. You're all set. You're good to go. No, you're not good to go because it's 2 meals by day and 1 by night. It's not 2 by night. Okay, that doesn't work. Drop that one. That one doesn't work. So you do 1 Friday night. So since we try means it's not Yehoreg V'al Yavor. It's not the end of the world if you don't. And in Hasidim we're not so machbat on it. And in Sfardim for sure don't. So if it's difficult, if you have 10 kids and if you make another meal, forget it. Forget about Pesach. Just not going to happen. Or you don't let the kids benched and they're finished, and you go to the corner and wash and have another pizza. So if you want to mekayim Shalosh Shudas in the morning, so you have to keep cup. We look at the clock, and so you have what's Shabbos morning's menu. It's going to be a piece of fish, let's say, or some eggs, and kugel and cholent. Pays like a cholent, or we'll pay the foods, but. Something. So this is what we will do. I think I'm going to do. So I'm going to dive into nets. Now nets finish around. If it starts at 6ish, it'll finish about 8:15. 8:15. I'll run home. I'm next door. I don't have a half-hour walk. I have a 2-minute walk. I walk to my house. We'll be all ready to wash. We'll wash at 8:30. And 8:15, 8:30, we'll wash. We'll eat for 20 minutes. We'll wash. Enough time to make a motzi and sing a little Zemiris, make Kiddush, say a Zemiris, and eat a few things, including.
You'll still do the Zemiris.
I won't lengthen, not lengthy, and not too much. I can the second meal. I can be more lengthy because I just stopped eating bread. Stop eating bread. And as long as you stop eating chametz, you're okay. But let's see, Dave. So I'll come, a kiddush, and have the bread and that first meal, and then what it's said to do is bench. Now, the Chazon Ish, he couldn't eat meat that early in the morning, so he had milk. He says, have eggs and cheese. You can have milk. That's what he says. But I was told because he couldn't eat meat so early in the morning. But if you're Chazon Ish says you can do that. You can have the first milk can be milchiks if you want, but then milk in the place to get complicated. Although it's all Chadami stuff, so it's not a problem of milchiks and silverware inflation. So you could have a milchik meal, have two lechem mishnah and challah and pita, and have something milk, have eggs and some cheese, and then what? Bench, sing Baruch Kalelyon, and bench. Wash and wipe. Do what I told you. Wipe off the chametz. Make sure any chametz left over is down the toilet, or I'll save it for later. Put it in a corner, and you'll do it after the. And then you need a half hour separation between one meal and the other.
Half an hour. And it's customary also to go out of the house.
Why? I'll tell you why. Why are we doing this? Because if you just stop, bench, and wash again, then you're causing yourself a bracha she'eina tzricha. You're causing yourself unnecessary bracha. Why did you bench and wash again? You're in the middle of the meal. If you stopped and you officially took a break, and you went outside, you took a walk, and you aired yourself out, you relaxed and you calmed down, and you took another walk, and you came back. So then you had a reason. You have to go. If you have a reason to, you could say, I'm not allowed. I don't have to eat straight. I can take a break and take a half-hour break and have another meal later. But if you wash and wash again right afterwards, you're causing yourself unnecessary brachas for not a good enough reason. Now there are those who would argue and say it's a good enough reason. You want to have shalosh shudas. But those say no. If you're reading one after the other, it's too close to one. And the Mishnah Berurah says wait a half hour. It's a Mishnah Berurah. It says you wait a half hour. The Chazon Ish also mentions it. Wait a half hour. So that half hour, but half hour, Dave, 20 minutes is also. It's not half hour. 20 minutes also. But take a walk. Go outside. Breathe out. Go. Leave your house. Make a hefsek. A clear hefsek between meal and one. Now, Dave, if it's complicated, but you have a small family, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to do this.
No, it won't.
It won't be hard for you.
It won't be difficult.
It won't be difficult. But the only problem is you have to when you finish davening. What time are you starting? If you're starting at 7.
You're determining this right now.
Yeah, Dave, you should not. You can't start at 7. If you start at 7, you'll finish at 9. It's a very well.
My walk is shorter than anybody's.
Well, it gives an hour is enough time to eat quickly. If you eat quickly, the second meal. Let me get something straight. You stop eating chametz at 10:10. So if you make the first meal at 9 o'clock, 9:15 even, and you 20 minutes you eat the meal, then the break that break is a problem. You don't have enough time to make the break. You need if you need a 20-minute, 25-minute break, you need to give some more time. 9 o'clock is not enough time. You got to finish before now. You got to start 6:30. 25 minutes. You might not have 6. You have to start 6:30.
You tell everybody.
They all want to do this. So listen, Dave. If they don't, if you can't do it, Dave, then don't do 2 sudas.
Okay.
If you can't get the minyan, then rely on the opinion to one meal. Just eat one meal. And that's it. And bench and finish.
Well, there was the idea that that if we have a communal kiddush where we wash.
But you don't say much. So you still have a problem. Then when you wash and you eat at the kid, but that makes it extra. Well, Dave, if you want to do
it here,
we'll
go out to the Olive Grove. But
Olive Grove and make it. Listen. That's it. But what about the wives? The wives will come as well. What about children? I mean, if is it practical? All the kids and all the family of your 10 people have children, have wives. They're all going to come and have their meal, Shabbos morning meal. The wives don't have to have a meal. It's not so practical. The women have to have a meal as well. The children have a meal as well. You're not going to make such a big thing at that time of day. It's not a good time to make a public thing for a lot of people. Make a public suda. It's not a time. It's too much. You won't be able to keep the details of the chametz of the matzah to get rid of the crumbs. It's just too much. Who's to take charge of cleaning up afterwards? You leave it out in the park, on the bench there. The birds take care of it. I mean, the halacha is that you don't take chametz on your backyard because the birds take care of it. But you want to make it officially a bird feed operation over here, was feeding the birds, vultures. It's not. I think everybody has to take care of themselves, go to their own homes, just like having Pesach Seder in their own home, and Erev Pesach in their own home. I think it's too much work on somebody, and too much of a headache to get rid of the chametz afterwards, and to be in charge. And people should not spread the chametz. I mean, you're right. If it's a public area, it's not. Listen, people in Yerushalayim who have a backyard, they go outside and do their meals Shabbos. The people being outside, and people try to avoid. People have small houses, and they have a lot of kids. They're going to go outside. They're going to find another apartment to eat. They're not going to be in their home. So there are people there, but if you're in your own home and you're in a situation that you're dealing about, where you'll be in your own home, I'm telling you this is the way to do things. If you can't get the minyan earlier than 7:00, and they'll finish at 9, you go home, have one meal, and that's it, and finish eating your chametz by 10, and then bench, and then by 11:15. You have to until 11:15. That's what are you going to do in the next from 10 to 11:15? Finish your meal, and then what? Well, just destroy all your crumbs.
Okay.
Any left. Make sure your house now. This is the last hour to clean up. This beer teshbisu. Now you become not sreifa, but get rid of chametz. If you leftover breadcrumbs, leftover pita, leftover challah, now is the time to get rid of it.
Oh, gosh.
And a bittul when before 11:15.
Before 11:15.
Yeah, before 11:15, make the bittul. That way, but don't do the bittul until you first destroy the chametz. You want to destroy the chametz, that's yours. Finish the chametz, make sure you clean the chametz, crumbs, leftover pita, leftover. Get rid of it down the toilet or out in the wind. But if you break it down the toilet, try not to have too much left over. One year we miscalculated and the kids did not eat, and we had like 10 pitot. I remember, and I went to the communal toilets. Because I had a bunch of them. I didn't want to stuff it anywhere. And I was breaking, every toilet had a little bit. And I was flushing like 35, 50 times I flushed the toilet. I didn't want to stuff it in the toilets. I just was breaking down. It was just, pardon my talking about such things on YouTube. But
yeah. And it's the same declaration that was in the Siddur.
But the one for day.
Yeah,
same day. And there's also a special Yehi Ratzon, which do you know what the Yehi Ratzon is?
Yeah.
After the I think our school might have it. Okay. After the nullification of the chametz, you say, especially Yehi Ratzon, that just like destroying the chametz in my possession, so Hashem should destroy the Yetzer Hara in my body, in my soul. I should be purified. I should be clean from Yetzer Hara, because basically Pesach is cleansing ourselves not just physically from chametz, but the spiritual chametz. That's the idea of chametz. Chametz is the Yetzer Hara, and we're trying to get purified. Just like after Pesach was not just a physical freedom. We spoke about this during the Parsha of Shmos. It wasn't just the physical redemption from bondage. It was a spiritual redemption from bondage. Our souls were bonded to its slavery until that lifestyle, the Egyptian lifestyle. And we were freed. Cheres Olam is not just the celebration over the freedom from physical bondage, but the spiritual bondage. So that's why we add to the bit as burning chametz. I'm burning the Yetzer Hara. Hopefully, I'll be cleansed and I'll be a better person, a better Jew.
It's actually a wonderful.
And you can say that on Shabbos. Even on Shabbos, you could say that, and you should say it. And if you don't have it, you should get. I can get it for you. The nusach. If you look and see if you have it, I can get it for you. You should say it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful tefillah. My wife says it every year. All my kids say it. It's a very, very beautiful tefillah.
Whenever we're doing bittul chametz, evening or in the day, we should have in mind. All right, we're doing the physical act here, but there's more happening.
That's right.
Don't get too caught up.
And Dave, when you're burning the chametz, also more than just you're burning chametz. You're burning the Yetzer Hara. It says Hashem. You have to feel that Pesach is Shabbos. Pesach has a whole connotations of the Geula Shlema. We say a little night of Seder. We say Lil Shimurim for the Geula. We say Shalom Yerushalayim. We speak about the Geula. We speak of the tunnel of redemption. Pesach is a holiday of redemption. Shira Shirim is the ultimate redemption. Kodesh Baruch come back to us and reconnect to us. So we're all involved in that. That's very much part of what's going on. So the depth of everything's going on in Pesach Seder and Pesach orientation and preparation is all the idea that preparing us for the total redemption, the ultimate redemption. There's big things. Yeah.
Rab, let's talk about the lunch. It's because you're going
Shabbos morning.
It's Shabbos morning. Yeah. So at 1, 2 o'clock, you're going to.
So listen to me. After you finished your meal in the morning, and you had whatever you ate, whatever the menu was, on your stove, you should still have something hot, and some kugel, and some potatoes, and Shabbos afternoon, after chatzos, after let's say 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Now it's change of clock. It'll be 1:30. You should sit down with your family. Now your house is chametz free.
Yeah.
And you're getting ready for Pesach. It's like a regular. Now it's a regular Erev Pesach. You should sit down and eat. It's even to have some meat or fish, something, not just fruits or vegetables, but meat or fish, something mechubed, and say, this I have kavanah for Suda Shlishis. Because there are opinions that Yotze Suda Shlishis without bread. So now we're trying to cover our bases. If you had 2 meals in the morning, you might have fulfilled Shalosh Shudas according to one opinion. Because one opinion, you didn't fulfill Shalosh Shudas. So now we cover all our bases. We have 2, if you can, 2 meals in the morning, and then you have another meal in the afternoon without bread and without matzah. It shouldn't be too late. It shouldn't be early enough. It shouldn't destroy your appetite for the evening. Don't eat too much, not at all. And you shouldn't have knei lach. You shouldn't fill yourself up with anything. Even those who eat gebrachs and have knei lach, you should not eat knei lach on.
It's a good way of getting mazonot.
It's a good way to get mazonot, yeah, but it fills you up. So if you eat knei lach, you have to eat it really early. You could eat it if it's early enough. Let's say you can't after 3 hours before sunset, 10, 11, 12, 3 hours before sunset, when you have to stop eating. That's the first Mishnah of Pesachim, to stop eating samach to the evening in order to have an appetite for the evening. So we don't want you to eating anything substantially 3 hours before sunset.
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore, but if you eat knei lach, you can have a little bit of knei lach. But let's say you eat it at 2, 3 instead of no later than 3. I think it says 3:48. I think that's 3:48. That shouldn't.
Okay.
You shouldn't. So let's say eat at 2 o'clock, 2:30. You sit down and have a nice hot piece of flesh and fish and you have in mind. You can sing Mishmil David. You can sing Izmir with some Shalosh Shudas. It's Shalosh Shudas. That's your Shalosh Shudas. That's what the Sfardim will do also. The Sfardim will do that also after Mincha. And all daven Mincha early. There is a minute daven Mincha early on Erev Pesach, but it's not going to happen for you because you probably daven Mincha before. There's a Mincha because in Beis Mikdash they daven Mincha. The Korban Tamid was brought earlier on Erev Pesach.
We have made a Rachmanis for the Bal Kriyai. Back and forth, 3 times during the day.
Why 3 times?
He'll be here for Shachri, then he'll go home. Then he'll come back for Mincha, then he'll go home.
He doesn't live nearby.
He lives over by you, so it's a lot.
It's a walk. It's a walk.
Otherwise, someone else has to read. But what's he going to do for Mincha then?
He can Mincha to us. He can do Mincha to us.
Okay, I guess he could. He certainly could.
But we're open. We're open.
You're open for business.
Okay. If it doesn't work, if there is a minig, the minig is based. I found it interesting. Since the base of Mikdash, they daven korban. They brought the korban Pesach after the korban Tamid, and they needed more time to bring the korban to bring a lot of korban Pesach. A lot of people brought korban Pesach, a lot of psachim. So they brought the korban Tamid earlier on Erev Pesach in order to allocate more time to bring the korban Pesach. So because of that, the minig is on Erev Pesach to eat daven mincha earlier. If you usually daven mincha later, daven mincha earlier. But if it's not a chiyuv. If you can, you can. If you can't, you can.
Okay, so
and according to the Sfardim, it's what shalosh should be eaten after mincha.
Yes.
So therefore, they daven mincha dafka, and then they go home and have this. What I told you, the hot cholent or hot fish or something, a nice kugel to have chvoid shalosh shudas.
So we were planning to have a mincha, and then a shir, and then mariv. And that's so.
It's okay. He'd rather say it's not the best. But
before Mishnah Berurah, they can eat shalosh shudas before mincha also.
Okay.
So in this situation, what you will do, Dave, you will Mishnah Berurah, they can do that even a whole year, If you don't, if a shul doesn't have shalosh shudas after mincha, you can eat mincha, eat shalosh shudas before mincha, and then go to mincha. So that's what you'll do this year. You'll eat that shalosh shudas at 2 o'clock. Have that. You'll have your kugel and fish and maybe cholent. The Chazon said make the cholent, save the cholent for then. I'll probably have a little cholent in the morning also. I won't be able to wait that long. I'll sell cholent in the morning. Have cholent. I'll make a big cholent for have in the morning and have cholent for the afternoon. Leave it on the fire. Be able to have it for afternoon as well.
You obviously can't prepare.
Oh, so now let's talk about that. Now listen, you have to have brains over here. You have to realize you're going now from Shabbos to Yontif, and you cannot prepare on Shabbos, any preparations on Shabbos for the evening. Let's define that. You can't set the table. You can't. You can clean the house. The house does not have to be a mess. You're allowed to clean Shabbos. The house can be. You say, I have to leave it all place on the table and leave it a mess. No, you can set up. You can sweep the table. You have to sweep anyway because of the chametz. You want any crumbs to get rid of any crumbs. And if you sweep the crumbs, remember then the Chazon Ish, I saw this in a sefer. Sweep the floor. and collect the chametz and any crumbs that are in the dustpan down the toilet, and then shake out the broom. Shake it out. I would take it outside. Shake it outside in the wind, and then put the broom into the guy's cupboard. And that goes to the chametz. I won't use that broom at Pesach. We have a kosher Pesach broom. I want to use a chametz broom that's full of all the garbage for the whole year. Yeah. So a Pesach broom. So now, very, very important. Prepare yourself 2 or 3 48-hour candles. Here's the situation: you light your candles on Friday night. That's regular Shabbos.
Yeah.
You prepare. Now, what do you use for candles? Oh, every year.
Usually tea candles, but we have 48-hour candles.
Yeah, but what do you use for Friday night? Tea candles? You light
they last for a long time.
Okay, fine. So if tea candles
hours.
2 candles, not a problem. If people use regular candles and had it into a candlestick and they have to melt it in, so people might melt it on the bottom, it should stick. You ever see people do that?
Yes.
Yeah. So your mother probably might have done like that.
That's what she did.
She did. So you can't do that on Saturday night. In other words, you lit Friday night and it burnt out. Now you have a whole box of candles. You put new candles for Saturday night. You can't melt them Saturday night. So you have to, in advance, what you would do. What I did in earlier years when I used candles is I would wrap them in foil on the bottom. They would stick in. It wouldn't have to melt them in. The foil would provide the friction to stick to. You have to be practical about it. Another thing, you can't prepare wicks. If you make wicks, I use oil, and I make the wicks by myself. I prepare the wicks. I can't prepare wicks on Yontif. You're not allowed to do that. That's something. That's a malach of tikkun kli. That's not permitted to be done in Yontif. So you have to prepare your wicks. So if you light only 2 candles, or 3 or 4, I light 14. 14. That's a lot of candles. So I prepare, and I have to have time on Friday to prepare 14 candles for Friday night. Another 40, and if I have kids are over, that's another 20 candles with their children. And they light. Everyone lights for themselves. So I prepare 20. I'm sitting there for a good hour, 25 candles for Friday night, and I'm preparing 25 the reserve supply for Saturday night. So you have to think in advance, and you have to have plenty of 48-hour candles. Now, what do you have 40-hour candles? Because on Saturday night, you will be lighting candles. You can't strike a match. So you have to have candles that are lit before Shabbos, and it's Yontif. You can't. So you have to. So if you have a light we used to be able to. You could also light from your. If you have in the old days, pilot light in the stove, you can get the pilot and light a match from the pilot light, and then from there light your Shabbos candles. But it's much easier to have near Shabbos candles a 48-hour candle. That way, you put a match inside there, and then you light. And you be careful. The match when it flares, somebody can put out the candle. So I light the side that's not the side that's the red part. Use it that way. It won't all of a sudden.
Rob, for setting the table, you
don't put out the match either. You put the match down. You can't put out the match.
You put it down.
Put it down. Yeah, it goes up. That's right. All things you prepare.
For setting the table, we can set it on Friday or Thursday.
If you have 2 tables, if you're eating outside, he has an opportunity to eat outside. That's great. If you can do that, if you can eat with your wife in the kitchen on Shabbos if you want, and have Shabbos tables with all separate Pesach. That's right. Now,
and you put
another important halacha I want to tell you about. I'm going to show you where you look at the halacha in the Mishnah Berurah. I'll tell you what simon to look at if you want to check out. You look at I'll tell you what to look at. I'm going to tell you what simon. Tamad 444. I'll show you what simon. You look at chapter 444. That's cute. 444. You'll see a lot of things in the Mishnah Berurah there. Chapter 444. Hilchos Pesach.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's something you want to look at. Tough man, dollar. You got to go. So did we cover it? Now another thing. See, you're allowed to take out. Listen to this, Dave. Wow. You're allowed to take out of the freezer.
Oh, look at all this.
Frozen food that you need for Saturday night. That's not called achana. Do it early. In other words, after you finish your chametz, take a meal on Shabbos morning, and you benched and you cleaned yourself off, and your house is Pesach now, and you swept up and everything. Now you Pesach. Pesach has started. Erev Pesach. So then it's in your bittel. You're all set. So now you can take out of the freezer the soup that your wife plans to have at the Seder, or frozen fish or frozen meat that you have, but not raw. Not things you're going to get cooked. They're muksa. Things that are cooked that you know you need them on Friday. You put them in the freezer to have them for the Seder night. You take them out already on Shabbos morning. That's not called preparation. That's just moving from place to place. That's not called separation.
But you can't heat up anything.
No. You can't eat with Shabbos. That's right. And you have to be aware that the night is going to be a late night. In other words, when you come home from you finish davening, say if your table is set, you're great. But you can't heat up the food until after. Okay. This was informative. I hope. Okay. You can't heat up the food till.
With the Pesach food, we cannot heat up
until after Tzeitzek HaChavim. You can't begin to put it on the. You can't cook on Shabbos.
You can't just leave it on there for Shabbat.
Or you can leave it on. You can do. But be careful not if you have no chametz. That's why if you made a Pesach Shabbos, and you want to put an extra pot on the blech, but why would you want it to be there for 24 hours? Oh, you want to put it on? It
has to be for the whole time, right? Of course.
Yeah, you can't take it. You can't take it and put it back on. Yeah, so you have to be aware of that. So you have to be aware that the night. That's why, Dave. Since from the beginning, from Kiddush till the meal, it takes an hour, for sure. For sure. So an hour that the soup can heat up. So if the soup is frozen from the freezer, it won't heat up.
Yeah.
So if you make sure the food is, if the soup was taken out, say Friday afternoon, and in the fridge, you paste the refrigerator, it's a pasting refrigerator, and you have your soup there, you have to have for Saturday night, so have it in the fridge, but you can't put it on the blech, you can't put it on the fire till Saturday night after, when Shabbos is over. Whatever, 40 minutes after sunset, whatever Tzeitzek HaChavim is, whatever Shabbos is over, that's when you can start heating up your food. Okay. And all the preparations. Okay, and I forgot to say, the women...
You're on.
Okay. Women who light candles on Saturday night, before the husband comes home from shul, okay, which they can do. They can't light early. You can't light early. You can only light candles after sunset, after stars come out. Because you can't light it's Shabbos. So you have to wait till... It's already Motzei Shabbos. And that goes right into Yontif. A woman who's going from Shabbos to Yontif cannot light candles without making Havdalah. But Havdalah is going to be made when? During Kiddush.
Okay.
Or Havdalah said...
But we're going to do Hamavdil Bein...
So, that's right. Dave, in the davening of Yontif davening on Saturday night, there's a paragraph, Vatodi Einu, which is Havdalah in the davening.
Yeah.
So that's the verbal Havdalah. Similar to Atachon and Tonu on Saturday night and every Motzei Shabbos.
Yes.
Right. Which is the Chazal were metaken both verbally and then over a cup of wine in the home.
Yes.
So if the woman davened Ma'ariv before she lit candles, if she davened Ma'ariv, which she could, daven Ma'ariv first and say Vatodienu, so then she said Havdalah. She verbalized Havdalah. So then she could light the candles, then she could light Shabbos candles. Light the Yontif candles. But if she didn't daven,
right,
and she has to say the words Baruch Hamavdil Ben Kodesh LeKodesh.
Yeah.
Just those words. Baruch Hamavdil Ben Kodesh LeKodesh.
That's enough.
That's enough. Yeah.
After Shabbat.
After Tzeitzek HaChavim.
Because that's women don't. It's a time bound mitzvah, right? So they don't.
Pardon? What do you think?
It's a time bound mitzvah.
But which one? Davening.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not required to daven.
So, of all the times to daven, when you're preparing for Pesach, that's got to be the least likely.
But on the other hand, Dave, because you can't really start anything till late anyway, so you start Ma'ariv a little bit earlier. My husband's going to come home and shul not for another. He's going to say Hallel, sing it with the song. I'll daven quickly in my house, Ma'ariv. It takes in shul 20 minutes longer. I'll daven Ma'ariv in my house. Let's say the shul davens. Let's say the husband. I'm going to go to shul.
Yeah.
On Saturday night. We'll daven Ma'ariv on Motzei Shabbos at 45 minutes after Shkia. And then we sing Hallel. It's long. And we sing it. I sing it. I make it nice. I'm a chazan. I sing it. It takes 15 minutes to Hallel. 10, 15 minutes to Hallel. So my wife knows she's home. And when I go to Ma'ariv, that's when she can put the food on the fire. Because it's already Shabbos. She can't do anything until she says Baruch Hamavdil. So what she might want to do is daven Ma'ariv, say ata Todienu, and that way she officially said Havdalah, and then she'll put the food either from the freezer, from the refrigerator onto the stove, because now it's Yontif, she can cook and she can heat up the food, and then she'll light candles. She already said Havdalah. If she doesn't daven, then she has to say the words, but she wants to put food on the stove. She can't do any malacha, period, on Saturday night until she says Havdalah. Either with davening or saying the words Baruch Hamavdil Ben Kodesh LeKodesh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then she says Shechiyonu. Is a question about the women Shechiyonu by the lighting of the candles. The meaning is that women say Shechiyonu by the lighting of the candles. Some opinions say that since Shechiyonu we need later on in the Kiddush for the mitzvahs of the night, so she should save the Shechiyonu for later. But most women they make a bracha l'hadak der shel yontif and make Shechiyonu, and they answer Amen to Shechiyonu later of their husband, and they have in mind all the mitzvahs of the evening. The Shechiyonu goes on not just on the Kiddush, not just on the holiness of the day. Shechiyonu goes on the Zman and goes on the mitzvahs. You have two things: the Zman, the new Zman, the new period of time, and the new mitzvahs. Yes. Tonight we have mitzvahs, matzah and moror and charosis and halal, all the mitzvahs of the night. The Shechiyonu goes on both aspects, on the Kedushas Azman and on the mitzvahs of the night. So the woman can say, Shechiyonu, when she lights candles, that's for welcoming in the holiness of the day, bringing in the sanctity of the Yontif, by lighting Hamadik Ner Shel Yontif. And Shechiyonu, that I'm alive to welcome in Pesach. Yeah. But the Shechiyonu later on in the meal, before the Kiddush, that Shechiyonu will not just go on the Zman, it will also go on the mitzvahs. And since she wasn't by the table then, so the Shechiyonu later on will refer to two things. When I make Shechiyonu by Kiddush, I'm having in mind two things: the Zman and all the mitzvahs of the evening.
Yes.
And women say, and that's women needs that Shechiyonu for that aspect of the Shechiyonu. Okay, so Dave, be careful to look at the Kiddush. Kiddush, you make Kiddush and Havdalah in the middle of Kiddush, and you have to have a candle prepared. We'll talk about that separately.
Not a Havdalah candle.
Havdalah candle, yes, Havdalah candle. Yeah, what do you do? What you can't you light Havdalah candle, you can't put it out.
Yes, right.
That's a problem. So you have to prepare.
This is going to be a cliffhanger for next week.
No, cliffhanger. Okay, we'll discuss it. We'll get anything that we left over today, we'll finish up next week.
All right, and Bli Neder, I will put a copy, at least on the WhatsApp group, of 444, the Hebrew and the English.
Okay. And that's enough. Just not the whole simon. Just the first two. Yeah, the first three. Yeah, most of it.
Till the laws when Pesach falls in Shabbos, so people may want to just walk through it. It's got
up until Sivvav. The first 5 seifim are more relevant. 6, 7, 8 are not less relevant.
Okay, it goes up to 34. So at least in the way they broke it up in mine.
You're right, 34 in the Mishnah Berurah, but in the what do you mean 34? What Mishnah Berurah you're talking about?
Yeah,
but the seifim on top. The first 5.
Okay.
Yeah, first 6 seifim.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, Rav Yashikoch.
Okay. Everybody, a good Yontif, and we'll meet next week again, hopefully, and talk about more of the Pesach Seder. And I hope this was helpful to get us into the mode and to the seriousness of the keeping as many mitzvahs as we can. We're blessed with so many beautiful mitzvahs. Hashem blessed us and elevated us with the opportunity to have kedushas and mitzvahs of Shabbos and Yontif and Bir Chometz and Sreifas Chometz, all the wonderful mitzvahs that we're blessed with. It's all good for our bodies and our souls. We should all be elevated and cleansed during this the beautiful Yontif that's Abba Leil L'Toiva.
Amen. Yashar Koach.